If you're gearing up for the IELTS speaking test, I'm willing to bet there's one particular fear that's living rent-free in your head, your accent. But what if I told you all that stress, all that worry is based on a complete and total myth? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain and find out what examiners are really listening for. We are going to untangle this whole complicated knot of anxiety right now, once and for all. Because the truth of what IELTS actually wants from you, it's so much simpler and so much clearer than what most people think. Let's just get this straight. The test does not want a performance. It doesn't want you to sound American or British or, frankly, like anyone other than yourself. In fact, trying to fake an accent is one of the biggest and most common mistakes you could possibly make. And here's the good news. What they do want is completely within your control. It's not about changing who you are. It's about refining a skill. It's not a personality transplant. It's just practice. So let's start with the big one, the great accent myth. So many test takers are absolutely convinced that their accent is the main thing holding them back from a great score. We're about to see why that's just not true. So the central myth is this idea that you need some kind of perfect native accent to score high. But the reality, IELTS is a global test, and it's designed for global English speakers. It welcomes all accents, Indian, European, Asian, you name it, with just one simple condition, that your meaning is clear. In fact, trying to put on a fake accent is probably one of the most counterproductive things you can do. Think about it. All that mental energy you're using to sound different, it makes you hesitate, and that just crushes your fluency. It actually interferes with your natural pronunciation, and honestly, it just sounds forced. This one mistake creates very real problems for your final score. So, if your accent isn't the key, what is? Well, it's pronunciation, but probably not in the way you're thinking. This is all about being understood, not about sounding like someone else. Okay, pay close attention here, because this slide is absolutely crucial. Think of it this way. Your accent is part of your identity. It's kind of like a map of where you're from. Pronunciation, on the other hand, is a technical skill. It's just about how clearly you shape your sounds and words. IELTS is only designed to judge the skill, never your identity. And this quote right here, this is really the only rule you need to remember. Make this your guiding light. If the examiner can understand you easily, without having to lean in and strain to figure out what you're saying, then your accent is a complete non-issue. It's done its job. Now, what's really interesting about this is it gives us a peek inside the examiner's mind. They're asking themselves super simple questions. Can I understand this person? Is their speech clear? They are not sitting there with a checklist for accent purity or a specific native speaker sound. So, let's get practical. What does clear pronunciation actually mean? Well, we can break it down into 4 key pillars that you can actively work on. These are the 4 things that work together to create speech that's just effortlessly understandable. Think of them as your toolkit for clarity: word clarity, sentence stress, intonation, and natural flow. Let's break each one down. First up, word clarity. This is all about the individual sounds inside the words. Can the examiner tell the difference between similar sounding words like ship and sheep? If they can't, your meaning gets lost, and that's exactly where you start losing points. Next is sentence stress. You see, English is what we call a stress-timed language. We put emphasis on the most important words in a sentence, usually the nouns and verbs. If your speech is totally flat, kind of like a robot, it becomes really hard for the listener to follow your main points. Pillar 3 is intonation. And I like to call this the music of the language. It's the way your pitch goes up and down. A rising pitch for a question, a falling one for a statement. This is what makes your speech sound natural and engaged, not monotone. So, now that we know what to focus on, it's just as important to know what to avoid. Let's look at some of the common traps that can accidentally sabotage your pronunciation score. Oh man, a big one is speaking too fast. So many people think speed equals fluency, but usually it just leads to mumbling and swallowing the ends of your words. Other classic mistakes are stressing random words, blindly copying an accent you saw online without understanding why, or just speaking too quietly. Okay, enough about the problems. Let's talk solutions. How can you genuinely improve your pronunciation in a way that will actually boost your score? This slide lays out the path forward perfectly. And the strategy is simple, but it's so powerful. First, just slow down, just enough to be clear. Record yourself and be your own examiner. Can you understand yourself easily? When you listen to native speakers, focus on their clarity, not their accent. And finally, own your voice and speak with confidence. At the end of the day, all of this comes down to a crucial mindset shift. Moving that little voice in your head from, my accent is bad, to asking, is my speech clear? That is an absolute game changer. Stop trying to sound native and start focusing on one simple goal: to be understandable. This is so, so important. Fear and anxiety make you tighten your jaw, they make you speak too fast, and they kill your natural rhythm. The moment you let go of the fear of your accent and just focus on being clear, your confidence grows and your pronunciation will naturally get better with it. So let's bring it all home. The test is not asking you to become a different person or to adopt a new identity. It's just asking you to present your own thoughts in your own voice in a way that is simply and clearly delivered. So if you take just one thing away from this, make it this final mantra. Speak calmly to control your pace. Speak clearly to make sure you're understood. If you do those two things, you're not just hoping for a good score. You are actively earning it. And that leaves us with one final critical question for you to ask yourself. Take a hard look at how you're preparing for this test. Are you practicing for a new accent? Or are you practicing for clear understanding? Because only one of those is going to get you the score you really want. The choice is yours.